Hey, it's Darik from Mix 96 with another edition of Darik's Good Deeds. This time, while we're staying at home, brought to you by justserve.org. Today, we're going to talk to Breathe, California, Sacramento region. They've been advocating for clean air and healthy lungs through education, community involvement, and creative solutions to impact policy. Marissa, Jaslyn, and Milton are going to join us today. Let's see what's going on. All right, we're here with Marissa, the Tobacco Control Programs Director, as well as Jaslyn and Milton from the Youth Advisory Board from Breathe, California, Sacramento region. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Marissa, this is not just about awareness for tobacco use. This is also lung health, and we also talk about air quality, right, in your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Breathe, Sacramento, California region has been located in the heart of downtown Sac for actually over a little over 100 years. So
Wow.
Our mission is to improve air quality and lung health for the Sacramento region.
At the time it was started, 1917, right? At the time it was started, what was the genesis behind the organization being started? Was it an air quality issue? What was it?
The founding was actually around the tuberculosis epidemic at the time.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, early 1900s in public health, we had a communicable disease, much like we're seeing now with tuberculosis. And so we were founded to fight tuberculosis and raise education. But, with time, chronic diseases have become more problematic in our communities related to tobacco use, but also poor air quality. That's not good for your lungs. So We've adapted with the times to change our programming.
Yeah. So Jaslyn and Milton are part of the Youth Advisory Board. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate both of you, and thanks for being here. The question I have to both of you is, what do you do on the Youth Advisory Board? What's the main focus for you, the priority? Jaslyn, you can go first if you'd like.
Yeah, I will answer first. Thank you for having us, by the way. I was so excited
Pleasure.
to hear we have this chance to speak. So the Youth Advisory Board does a couple of things. I first joined a couple years back when my freshman year of high school. And when we were in person, it's changed a lot from shifting from in person to virtual, but we used to go to events. We used to, and we still try to go to events, but they're more virtual now. We go to events and spread awareness about tobacco. We also learn about legislator or specific tobacco policies. We learn about things that we all know, like surface level, tobacco is bad for you, but we learn about the specifics of health issues as well as marketing and how tobacco kind of like restricts our generation. Like our generation is heavily marketed to by tobacco, and they exploit like our youth because they think we're naive or they think they can get away with it. But the Youth Advisory Board provided this opportunity to educate us and help us educate ourselves and our peers. And I will save some for Milton. So
sure. Well, Jaslyn, really quickly before we get to Milton, what is the most important thing that you learned on the Youth Advisory Board? What's maybe the most surprising thing you learned? Most important surprising thing?
I'd say something I mentioned earlier, that I joined the Youth Advisory Board when I was really young, and I think I learned a lot about how you have to be smart in this world. There's tobacco companies specifically, I didn't realize, I thought it was just another industry. But when you're young, there's a lot going around in society and in this world that we deserve to be educated about. So I learned the importance of being educated about things happening around us and not letting certain groups exploit me and who I am and losing my identity. So I'm very
good way of putting it. Wow. Very articulate, by the way. You're far from, if the tobacco companies think that youth are ignorant in any way, well, you're proving them incorrectly, by the way. Milton, go ahead, please. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us on. We really appreciate the opportunity. And so for the Youth Advisory Board, I like to think of it kind of in two parts, of an education aspect and an advocacy aspect, because a lot of the things that we do on the Youth Advisory Board kind of revolve around this idea of education, especially with lung health and tobacco control issues. And especially as it pertains to youth and just the general public, not everyone knows that the tobacco industry has such an extensive history of marketing, predatory marketing, and just kind of harming the overall community and overall public health. Like when I first initially joined, I joined around my freshman year as well. I think this is my third year on the board right now. But just over the years, you kind of accumulate this knowledge that generally people just have no idea about, just how big the tobacco industry has become and how harmful it is to like every single community, and especially towards minority groups and other groups as well. And in terms of the advocacy aspect, the Youth Advisory Board is very interesting in that it gives Sacramento's youth an opportunity to be part of the community and to really affect positive change within the community. So
Sure.
I've been really grateful for those aspects of it.
You're right. You know, the more I tried to understand about the tobacco industry, the more I realized how insidious what they were doing was. And the exploitation of minorities in particular was a shock to me, what they did. And just the dehumanization of people. I mean, hearing some of the quotes from, you know, these CEOs and board of directors. I mean, of course, we run ads too on the radio station to bring awareness to this through different campaigns. And I was just shocked at the inhumanity by some of the leadership of these organizations. And one thing I wanted to ask both of you, Jaslyn and Milton, since you're on the Youth Advisory Board, how bad is the vaping epidemic in the United States, in California? How bad is it? And how do they get to these kids? And how do they get them hooked like that? Either one of you can answer.
Okay. Oh, well, I guess I'll start off. But at least from anecdotal experience, like the vaping epidemic is a very large problem. Like going through my high school, kind of the bathrooms have become this kind of sanctuary for vaping. And it's this very immense problem that people are kind of casting aside because they think that, oh, cigarette smoking rates are going down. So, oh, tobacco's gone and the tobacco industry is kind of settled out. But the reality of the situation is that the tobacco industry adapts just like any other industry. And with all of its insidious marketing, like you mentioned, it's always going to adapt to the future. And that's what it's done with these e-cigarettes and these vaping products. It's just adapted and kind of built off how Gen Z is kind of like this technological age. It's built off that to try and like push its addiction and push its monetary gains.
Sure. What is the organization doing specifically to fight back against these tobacco companies and these organizations that are harming people?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Organizationally, you know, we one of the most powerful things we could do is educate. And honestly, the biggest thing we could do is educate our youth, like Milton and Jaslyn, not only so they're aware, but then they go on and they help educate and inform our local elected officials. I've seen both Jaslyn and Milton do an incredible job at talking to local elected officials across Sacramento County to advocate for policy change that will protect not just their peers, but the general population of Sacramento County. And so education is one of our best tools.
Or do you think that Milton and Jaslyn, are you guys going to have an opportunity maybe someday to make it to Washington, D.C. to present something in front of Congress? Because I would like to see that happen too. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier that when I walked into YAB, I was kind of this naive, how old was I? Like 13, 14? And I think
How old are you now, Jaslyn? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I think in an alternate universe, like vaping is kind of normalized within our high school culture in some ways. And I don't know, like they prey on us in a way that makes it seem like, oh, this behavior is okay, or this behavior is normal, and it's going to help you fit in. So the education aspect, like me learning, me helping others in my community learn. And I think I would like to bring it to like national attention, helping our country learn about like things like this that you don't realize are problems within like your environment and your culture. So sure. I'm very proud to be here and proud to represent my view.
Jaslyn, how old are you? Is what I meant to ask you.
I am. Oh, sorry for interrupting you, by the way.
That's okay. That's okay.
Currently, I am 16 and 11 months. So.
And Milton?
I'm 16 as well.
Okay. So, guys, what do you want people to understand? I mean, we know, like you said, people know tobacco is bad, but what do you think? What is the kernel of knowledge that gets to people that finally makes them realize how deep this rabbit hole goes when it comes to the exploitation of people through tobacco use and to push it on youth as well? What is that thing that just people go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
I think, at least for me, really just looking and analyzing just the history of big tobacco back in the early 20th century, and then kind of paralleling and comparing that to nowadays in the 21st century with the e-cigarette industry, because these things that we kind of critique big tobacco for, this predatory marketing, this marketing towards children and minority groups that big tobacco back in the 20th century was very guilty of. We kind of shame them for that. But when it comes to the e-cigarette industry, we turn a blind eye. And the reason I'm on the youth advisory board is because I don't want to look back in 50 years and then notice that the e-cigarette industry was exactly like the big tobacco industry in the 20th century. And I don't want to look back on that and see how I just sat complacent in the face of something just so insidious and something that could be so easily prevented as well.
Sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'd love to answer that question as well. If
Jasmine, please.
But I think the most important thing I learned, and this, I'm bringing back the naiveness, but I don't want to say I've lost like faith in humanity, but I think the most important like thing to know is greed. Like industries, especially the tobacco industry, prey on people like minorities, other youth, other communities that are marginalized in order to make money off them. We never try to blame like the victim. We don't blame people for wanting something to relax, or we don't blame teenagers for wanting to fit in and then turning to vapes or smokes. We blame the industries that use that prey on these like normal like feelings of guilt or normal feelings of like normal emotions. We target the industries who want to profit off those and market like unhealthy products such as tobacco and vape to people who actually could probably turn to something else more healthier to solve their problems. So I think acknowledging that it's not an individual's fault, but rather like this holistic kind of industry that's targeting these people, that helped me realize that the tobacco industry is very not good at the very least.
Sure. Jaslyn and Milton, I really am impressed, and I appreciate, your defined moral compass and your desire to be ethical. And I think that first of all, I'm very proud individually of you, and our community is proud of you. And I bet Marissa is absolutely proud of the Youth Advisory Council of Breathe California, because you guys have such a distinct understanding and intelligence to be able to spread the word and to be able to get the message out there. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing the information. And Marissa, is there anything else you'd like to add? Or are there any events? How can we get involved? How can we, just serve our community and help you guys?
Yeah. First, I have to say how proud I am, because I've known Milton and Jaslyn for about 2.5 years now. I met them when I started at Breathe almost 2.5 years ago. And so to just be able to see how much their knowledge and expertise on this topic has grown, they know so much more than so many adults in our community. And I'm just very, very proud of them.
Yeah, I imagine you are. Yeah.
Very proud. Yeah.
Thank you all.
There's so many ways to get involved. We're always looking for people who are interested in our mission to improve air quality and lung health. The best way to get in touch with us is visit our website, see the different programs that we facilitate for our community members. And if there's something that's interesting to you or really strikes your interest or passions that you have personally, reach out to us, because we love connecting with our community members over that. And we'd like to get you involved.
Very good. Marissa, the Tobacco Control Programs Director, as well as Jaslyn and Milton from the Youth Advisory Council, thank you for joining us and letting us know what your organization is doing in our community. We so appreciate all of you, and we're always here for you if you need us. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
I'm so impressed with Jaslyn and Milton from the Youth Advisory Board from Breathe California. Man, aren't they smart and aware? We need more awareness about these issues in our community. To find out more, go to sacbreathe.org. You can find out about lung health, tobacco, and air quality. It's another edition of Darik's Good Deeds, powered by justserve.org and Mix 96.